Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It is Monday. Hope everybody had a glorious weekend. Up there. Today, Jesus tells the parable of the loaned money. Matthew chapter 25, starting at verse 14. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing up in proportion to their abilities. Then he left on his trip. The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they used his money. The servant to whom he had entrusted 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount. Now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. The servant who had received 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest. I have earned 2 more. The master said, Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so I'll give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here is your money back. But the master replied, You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit the money in a bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it. Then he ordered, Take the money from this servant and give it to the one with 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant out into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And now the commentary. The master divided the money according to his servants according to their abilities. None received more or less than they could handle. If they failed in their assignments, their excuse could not be that they were overwhelmed. Failure would indicate only laziness or hatred toward the master. The bags of silver represent any kind of resources we are given. God gives us time, gifts, and other resources according to our abilities, and he expects us to invest them wisely until he returns. The issue is not how much we have, but how well we use what we have. Jesus is coming back. We know this is true. Does this mean that we must quit our jobs in order to serve God? No. It means that we are to use our time, talents, and treasures diligently in order to serve God completely in whatever we do. For a few people, this may mean changing professions. For most of us, it means doing our daily work out of love for God. The last man was thinking only of himself. He hoped to play it safe and protect himself from his hard master, but he was judged for his self-centeredness. We must not make excuses to avoid what God calls us to do. If God truly is our master, we must obey willingly. Our time, abilities, and money aren't ours in the first place. We are caretakers, not owners. When we ignore, squander, or abuse what we are given, we are rebellious and deserve to be punished. This parable describes the consequences of two attitudes toward Christ's return. The person who diligently prepares by investing time and talents to serve God will be rewarded. The person who has no heart for the work of the kingdom will be punished. God rewards faithfulness. Those who bear no fruit for God's kingdom cannot expect to be treated the same as those who are faithful.
Don't use it, you lose it.
Kinda. Now, that's not to say that if you're saved, that you're still not going to be in paradise with God, but it's talk. I believe it's Paul. I'm not exactly sure, but I think he talks about there be many gifts in heaven, different crowns of reward for us, and some people will suffer loss, but they will still be saved, and that's kind of what he says. And I don't profess to know what that all exactly means. I just know that will be a difference in rewards for us.
I was just thinking about, like, here on earth, whenever God gives us a talent, whether it be time or talent or money or whatever the gift is that God gave us, if we don't honor God with that gift, it's very possible that God may choose to let someone else have the gift, or for you're not using it, so I'm not going to bother giving it to you. I don't know how God's mind works. I can never fathom that. But I'm just saying that we need to use our time, talent, gifts, whatever it is that God's given us, be grateful for it and use it to glorify Him.
Yeah. And I think part of that is, I think we see that even in our time today. We see people with the really good gift of speaking and even preaching, but then they get out of control with their own selves. And God passes judgment on them and allows them to go take their lust for power and money and things, and lets them go and have it. And it I think we've seen plenty enough preachers, especially some of these televangelists, they had the gifts. They had the gift of preaching and teaching.
God gave them a gift.
Gave them the gift, and they decided to go another way, and then God turned them over. And I think that is a possibility of what's being said here too. You are given all these gifts, and instead of using it for good, you took it for yourself. And now, and what you reap is what you sow. What you sow is what you reap. And if you're going to, sow lust and greed and everything else, these are the consequences you're going to get.
And there are consequences.
And they still, and to be fair, even though they themselves might not be all that great, they still, for the most part, I can't really judge for the most part, but they still had the possibility of preaching the truth to people and bring them to Christ. And so they're, God's still working through them, but for themselves personally, I think it didn't quite go the way they were thinking it was supposed to go with God. Hope everybody can understand that. No rambling there, but all right. Hope everybody has a glorious day, and we'll talk to you later.